Hi all, this is Priyadharshini working as an assistant professor in the Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. Today let's dwell into the topic deadlock in operating system. Deadlock is an important topic comparatively in operating system. So the objectives of this video are to find what is a system model, to characterize what is deadlock and the methods for handling these deadlock. So in that, how are we going to prevent or avoid or detect and then getting recovery from those deadlock. So this is about the objective. So let's get deeper into that. So first of all, we have to know how a system is modeled. So when you take a computer system, it contains a finite number of resource types. That is R1, R2, etc. up to Rm. So resources are nothing but it could be any file or input-output devices, or even memory is called to be a resource. This should be distributed among competing processes. The resource types are then partitioned into several types, each having a number of identical instances. So what do you mean by instance? For example, if printer is a resource, so printer is of a resource type. If 2 or 3 printers are attached to a system, then we call there are 3 instances of print. Hope I am clear with that. Next, we have to see what is the sequence of a process to use a resource. So when a process has to use a resource to complete its execution, it has to first request the resource, then use, and then it has to finally release the resource after its execution. So let's see. A process must request a resource before using it and release it after making use of it. So first step is to utilize a resource. A process should first request for an instance of a resource type. If the resource is free, the request will be granted. Otherwise, the process should wait until it acquires that particular resource. After requesting for the resource, after the resource has been granted, the process can use the resources for its execution. Once the process has completed its execution, the process should release the resource. So that is how a system model is developed. So now let's see what is a deadlock. So a deadlock is nothing but a situation where 2 or more processes are blocked together waiting for or holding some other resource and waiting for some other resources to complete its execution. So deadlock can be defined as a permanent blocking of processes that either compete for system resource or communication with each other. So this set of blocked processes each hold a resource and wait to acquire a resource held by another process in the set. All deadlocks involve conflicting needs for resources by 2 or more processes. A set of processes or threads are deadlocked when each process or thread is waiting for a resource to be free, which is controlled by another process or which is held by another process. So for example, suppose consider a system contains 2 disk types. If P1 is holding disk 2 and P2 is holding disk 1, and if P1 requests for disk 1 and P2 requests for disk 2, then there is a deadlock. So for example, consider a traffic deadlock in an everyday example of a deadlock situation. When 2 trains approach each other at a crossing, both shall come to a full stop or neither shall start up again until the other has gone. So this situation is called a deadlock. So what are the necessary conditions for having a deadlock in a system? So there are 4 necessary conditions for a system to be in deadlock state. So first one is mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, circular wait. Now let's see what is mutual exclusion is. So as we all know, mutual exclusion is nothing but only one process at a time can use a resource. That is, a process should not be a shareable resource. No processes can access a resource until that has been allocated to another process. So what is mutual exclusion? Mutual exclusion means the resources should not be shareable. Hold and wait. So a process holding at least one resource is waiting to acquire an additional resource held by an other process. Next one is no preemption. So this is a resource can be released only voluntarily by the process of holding it after the process has come or after the process has completed its task. The next condition is circular wait. So if there exists a set P0, P1, etc. up to Pn of waiting process such that P0 is waiting for a resource that is held by P1, P1 is waiting for a resource that is held by P2, Pn minus 1 is waiting for a resource that is held by Pn, and Pn is waiting for a resource that is held by P0. So these are the 4 conditions that hold simultaneously in a system that make arises deadlock.